we're going to continue along with our sessions. We've invited Yolanda Fields, who is a leader at Breakthrough Urban Ministries, as well as a part of, well, she and her husband lead New Landmark Missionary Baptist Church in Garfield Park, as well as are part of a citywide violence prevention initiative called Communities Partnering for Peace. And so we invited Yolanda to share with us this morning a bit more about Communities Partnering for Peace, but also how they are shifting and adapting their work, both at Breakthrough and with CP4P, to the ongoing COVID crisis. So Yolanda, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're so grateful you're here.
Good morning. I've already been so inspired by Pastor Edie and Pastor Brooks, and Dr. Detmer, unfortunately, caused some more tears to flow. This is a difficult time, but we believe that God is sovereign and that He is still on the throne. It is with that hope and resolution that I go every day to serve the most vulnerable. So at Breakthrough, our mission has been for the last 27 years really to partner with those who are affected by poverty. And we are seeing that through the essential programs that we are providing, that the need now is greater than ever. Our education and youth development program is staying alive, even though our preschoolers are not in the building. We're not having after school programming. What we recognize is that there will be academic gaps. And so we want to make sure that we are providing what is needed to help supplement, and not just in education. But many of you know that we are also homeless shelter providers. And so I just want to echo what has already been said about this most vulnerable population. We have right now in our shelter a few folk who have been not impacted by COVID, but have some other health needs that creates an opportunity for them to be isolated from other folk. And we're able to do that, and we're thankful to God for that provision. But if you and I can recall how difficult it is for us to shelter in place, then to imagine those who have no home, what that looks and feels like for them. And so I would just, first solicit your prayers for that. And then, I wanted to just kind of give an update from the front line. In addition to all of the other programs through homeless intervention, we are, East Garfield Park is a food insecure community. And so our Fresh Market Food Pantry is providing food. We're distributing 3 times a week. And when I first started getting questions in the beginning of March about how we thought we might be impacted, I said, we're expecting an increase in distributions. For the first couple weeks, it was 25%. And I want to just say that our last distribution, really, we had seen an increase of almost 69% in the people that we serve. And so I believe that the aftermath of COVID is going to be paramount. And as a body of Christ, we've got to be prepared. But even right now, people are being devastated economically. And so as I was thinking about just what it means to have hope during this time, I was reminded of Isaiah 57:15 that says, "For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones." And I have just kind of posted that scripture on my visor in a number of different places, because I want to be reminded, and I want us to be reminded of the reality of the situation, that yes, it is difficult, but also that there is a high and lofty one who is available to us. And so as I think about what it means to shelter in place for the homeless, for those who've reached sort of the end of whatever safety net they had available, that it's going to be even more important that you and I, as believers, respond. COVID-19 is not new. The way that, and when I say it's not new, I mean the impact on the general population is new. But if we're honest, we've been dealing with an epidemic for many, many years. And that epidemic in our city and our country is mass shootings and gun violence. And I am sad to say that even in the midst of COVID-19, those have not stopped. And so we saw a brief decline in the number of homicides in our city. And now we're starting to see that violence is increasing again. And so when Nate introduced me, he said that, you know, not only am I serving at Breakthrough and at New Landmark where my husband pastors, but my heart and my mind and all of me is present in East Garfield Park during these really troubling times. So there are a couple things as we think about updates for what it's like on the front line. I talked about economic hardship for residents who have hourly jobs, who work in hospitality and are starting to feel the burden of that loss. We've talked about food insecurities, and now I want to talk about the impact of violence. Just in the last week and a half, we've seen an increase in violence in East Garfield Park. I love the sun. I get so excited. I love the SUN and the SON, but I recognize in our community when the SON is present, there is hope. But with that hope, and I shouldn't say but, and with that hope, when the SUN is present, there generally is an uptick in violence. And so while COVID-19 has caused many of us to shelter in place and we have homes to shelter in, what we're finding is that our youth who are not in school are most vulnerable because they are continuing to gather. We are in constant communication with the 11th district, and we were told that there were 88 incidents of gathering that they had to respond to. And so one of the things that we do know about epidemics is that generally there is a hard hit for the general population, and then there is an aftermath for marginalized communities. We saw it with HIV, where African Americans now are still leading the way in the largest amount of those who are being newly diagnosed. And we suspect that it will be the same way with COVID-19. So we have children, our students, who are still on the streets and are very vulnerable to not just the disease, but to hunger and to violence and some of the other elements that they face. And so Communities Partnering for Peace, I think, is one of those organizations really who stepped forth for such a time as this. The Communities Partnering for Peace has its work rooted in nonviolence, trauma-informed care, hyper local collaboration, and then restorative justice practices. This marks the first time that such efforts have been locally implemented on a broad level. The strategy is comprehensive, but it's simple. A group of organizations have come together across the city and the most vulnerable communities. We've committed ourselves to preventing and intervening in violence so that we can reduce shootings and homicide, to empower communities to reclaim safe spaces, to train and equip our outreach staff to be the very best at what they do, to coordinate service and build capacity of organizations and individuals. And so when I think about the work that's being done for Communities Partnering for Peace, that even during this time, our outreach workers are serving a dual role. And so they are wearing the hat of peace ambassadors while also trying to reinforce everything that we know about COVID-19. They're talking to people about social distancing and the proper way to wear masks and gloves. They are sharing public information through flyers and just a host of other ways that we've had to show up almost as public health workers to ensure that those who are most vulnerable and on the ground understand the importance of isolating themselves. And so there is hope on the horizon. We recognize that even in the darkest days that there is always hope. And so we're looking forward to the brighter days that lie ahead. And there are ways that we can begin to mobilize ourselves, even right now, for an accurate response. One of the things that I wrote down when Pastor Edie was speaking is he said that he didn't want his witness to be irresponsible or reckless. And as that resonated in my spirit, I thought about the two things that I really want to charge this audience with. One is to pray strategically. And when I say strategically, there are 77 neighborhoods in Chicago. And of those 77 neighborhoods, homicides and gun violence really only occur in the most part in about 14 of those. Communities Partnering for Peace is operating in about 22 of the most vulnerable neighborhoods, but you can play a part. You can pray strategically for the safety and the provision of those neighborhoods and the residents. There is a map that you can find online. That map allows you to look at all 77 neighborhoods. I would say choose one of the 22 and begin to pray and to just seek the Lord for provision, that he would not just give provision for the residents, but that he would bring a revival of economic vitality to those neighborhoods, that his peace would be present, that he would allow block clubs to resurge, that he would give courage and might to our elders who have wisdom, that they would connect again with young people, and that families and churches in those communities would be strong. And so I would say pray strategically. And then the second thing is that get involved. That even during this time of sheltering in place, that there are so many organizations that need you. Our local churches need you. Many of us have efforts that we have already brought forth through the local church that we need assistance with. Organizations, particularly organizations like ours who are sheltering people. We lost all of our volunteers because it wasn't safe to have them entering the space. We want to respect social distancing and shelter in place. So we've asked people to cater meals and have them sent to us, to use local providers. So we still want to stimulate the local community's economic hub. And so there are ways that you, even right now, from your desk at home, from your sofa, from your computer, can be actively involved in making a difference during this time. When Pastor Edie said that he didn't want his witness to be irresponsible or reckless, I think that that was really a nudge for all of us to think about the role that we play even right now. What is God saying? How is he speaking to our hearts and our spirits and our minds? And what is he calling us to do to be involved in the lives of those that are in our sphere of influence and beyond? One of the things that we care deeply about at Breakthrough is our seniors. And we are very concerned about the isolation that shelter in place is bringing for them. And so I would say for the seniors that are in your life, call them. They want to hear your voice. They want to know that they are not alone. And so 2 things, again, pray strategically, and then secondly, get involved. Thank you for your time today.